20 years after the end of the Soviet campaign in Afghanistan, the BBC's Lise Doucette goes back and meets a Soviet soldier who stayed on, converted to Islam, and now finds himself in the midst of a fresh conflict with strange echoes of the past. This is BBC World News.
Pushing south into Afghanistan, this bridge marks what was once the edge of empire. For centuries, mighty armies invaded across this border. Moscow's Red Army came this way 30 years ago. In 1989, they went back. Afghans who fought them declared victory.
It was a victory which was unprecedented after World War II, because everybody was thinking that the Red Army goes somewhere they'd never leave. So we really shattered the myth of invincibility of the Red Army.
More than 100,000 Soviet soldiers went home. Their commander, General Boris Gromov, wanted to be the last to go. His 14-year-old son, Maxim, met him on this bridge. He said, "I felt joy. We had done our duty, we were going home, and I didn't look back." Later that day in Moscow, a foreign ministry spokesman said not a single Soviet soldier was left in Afghanistan. I watched Soviet troops leave that day, but the story didn't really end here. And 20 years on, memories of that conflict are being invoked again, as Afghanistan finds itself still at war. Kunduz, northeast Afghanistan. I've come here to meet Ahmed, the taxi driver. Not just any taxi driver. Ahmed, the former Red Army soldier, Private Alexander Levinets. He's a living reminder of how great powers have fought over this place for centuries, why it's so rarely known peace. He came to Afghanistan as a 19-year-old conscript and never left. To look at him, you'd never guess he's anything but an Afghan Muslim.
هر روز سواری پیدا میشه؟
پیدا میشه. متأ بسیار است. سواری از مشکل است.
Ahmed deserted his unit and joined the enemy. That war is over. Now he lives in the midst of another.
Ahmed,
بله.
امروز چرا زیاد پلیس هست؟
معلوم نیست. همین سال میکنه. اصلا تو را سال میکنه. کدوم موتور انتحاری نباشه. تلاشی میکنه.
Decades ago, Ahmed was a Red Army soldier in this Cold War confrontation. A brutal conflict that left this country in ruin and hastened the end of the Soviet Empire. Mujahideen fighters armed by the West and Muslim neighbours took on the might of a Soviet-backed government. More than 1 million Afghans died. Some 15,000 Soviet soldiers were killed. A monument to the dead sits at the very edge of Russia's embassy in Kabul. Ambassador Zamir Kobalov was a young diplomat here during that war. He spent almost his entire career in this country.
It was a mistake, but it was not a mistake of those who lost their lives here. They did their best serving for their homeland, serving for their nation's interests.
For Afghans who fought the communists, it was a glorious war to rescue their nation. They called themselves Mujahideen, holy warriors. Now some of those same fighters are in power.
This is the time when we were fighting the Russians, so we didn't know what is happening, but we were very happy fighters.
I've known General Wardak since he was a Mujahideen commander in the 80s. Now he's the defense minister.
Yeah, it was hard, but it was something which we were very proud and honored to do. And there was a great fulfillment of our conscience for what we were doing for our country.
Ahmed, the taxi driver, wants to put that war behind him. He takes me to the airbase on the plains of Kunduz, where he landed as a teenage conscript, a village boy from Ukraine. The base now lies by a vast graveyard for Soviet weaponry, reviving memories he wants to forget. The brutality of his Russian officers who drove him to walk into the darkness one night.
What was it like to fight with the Mujahideen against the Soviets?
Because
the Mujahideen turned these weapons on each other when they eventually came to power. Their misrule paved the way for Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The West intervened again.
Very good.
In 2001, as winter closed in, Afghan fighters, backed by US and British forces, pushed into Kabul along this main highway running south. Foreign armies were welcomed as liberators. It was hailed then as a new start for a shattered country. But not now. And for Russia, there's a dark echo of history.
Tragedy is repeated again, unfortunately. I feel that Americans and other partners neglected historical past and historical lessons. They came with the slogan to combat terrorism and to rebuild sovereign, independent, prosperous country. That was ultimate goal. So, on all these parts of the slogan, there are problems and shortcomings.
You don't believe them?
Life, not me. It is a matter, it is today's reality of Afghanistan. Whereas Taliban, who were runaway, they are very much now, keep 70% of the territory under their influence, if not control.
Western diplomats dispute those numbers, but Russia's envoy can't be easily dismissed. The Russian embassy, ransacked in the mayhem of Mujahideen rule in the mid-90s, sparkles again. Kabul's glitterati, ambassadors, defense attachés turn out for a reception to mark Russia's Armed Forces Day. Moscow's charming top diplomat is in his element.
Right, okay.
We are very tolerant.
Good to see you.